we are back. I'm sorry. And we are back.
I'm not doing this again, so just keep going.
And we just finished watching Robot Dreams from 2023, according to IMDb, not rated, but this clocks in an hour and 42 minutes. You can catch this at the local cinema. This is one of the contenders for Best Animated Features at this coming Oscars. This is, according to IMDb, the adventures and misfortunes of Dog and Robot in New York City during the 1980s. I thought it was the 90s, but I guess it makes sense that it's the late 80s. There's definitely a nod to the fashions and hairdos of the time. Mm-hmm. This is, I think, already down a couple of pegs from some members at the table because it took Mutant Mayhem's spot as Best Animated Feature. But I think a very sweet story and a great soundtrack, and anything that includes September by Earth, Wind & Fire gets a nod from me. So I'm going to go around the table.
Soundtrack was infinitely better.
It was infinitely better. Fair enough. But when you include the music, the song that is the musical embodiment of happiness, I'm all on board. I'm going to go around the table and get impressions. I'm going to start with you.
I thought it was okay.
You thought it was just okay.
Yeah, it was just okay. I mean, okay, like you said, I'm going in with a bias against this thing because in my mind, there's nothing really unique or special about this movie. The animation is what you would see on an average Cartoon Network show. The only thing cool about it is they made a very nice animated version of New York. I mean, they even just had the actual storefronts there. Mm-hmm. Like, I recognized places.
Yeah,
I was like, I've eaten in that place.
Yes, yeah. And also the landscape of New York with the Twin Towers in Lower Manhattan, which kind of I was jarred at first.
Yeah.
And I think that, not that it took me out, but it took me a second to kind of, I guess, figure out where in the timeline the story was told from.
Yeah, I was pegging it as like early 90s, late 80s, but
I thought 90s.
Now that I think about it, you see a lot of everybody's an animal.
Yes,
you see a lot of, but the hairstyles are of the time, and you see a lot of
flat tops. Right, and that was definitely
like the crazy 80s. Like skyscraper flat top that like a lot of kids I went to high school with.
Yeah,
they were sporting. So that was nice, but like I said, the animation, the character design, there's nothing unique or new or interesting about any of it. The story, I got to be honest, Dog kind of pissed me off.
Why did Dog piss you off?
I could see why Dog had to buy a robot friend to be a companion for him because he was too passive. I guess he would try and make an effort to go out and do stuff. I mean, he did, but even when he did, like he had that bit of a relationship with that
duck.
She was a duck?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. She was a duck. And I could see why she just ghosted him after that one day.
Ghosting before it was even a term.
He was kind of just a liability.
Terrible.
He was I don't know. And I guess you're also, another interesting thing about this movie is it's also, there's no talking. There's no dialogue. And it's funny how, because we look at older films and we're like, a lot of older films couldn't happen if people just had a cell phone. Honestly, a lot of the stuff that was in this movie would not have happened if people just talked. Mm-hmm. The whole thing, like his whole getting separated from the robot was, I couldn't get on board with that. It was just so stupid to me. It was like he's standing on the pier. All he has to do is say, he's right there. He's right there. You could see him lying in the sand. He's right there.
A question for you. I don't feel like there was a gender associated with robot.
No, I don't think there were genders for any of the robots.
Yeah.
They were just companions.
Right.
Yeah.
But not everyone had a robot companion.
No, you only see 3 as far as I recall.
Right.
One
in that car that was getting beat up by that
little kid, and the other one, the squarehead one, and him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like for a world that had fully functioning robot companions that were like just super useful and helpful, not many people really had them or liked them.
Maybe it was too expensive.
Maybe, but then again, you'd figure you're in New York.
Yeah, that's true.
People buy, they spend $8,000 on a handbag.
That's true, or more,
or more.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could spend $8,000, I ain't buying a handbag. I'm buying a goddamn robot that could paint my house in like 3 seconds.
That was useful for Rascal. That was the raccoon's name, right?
Yeah, was he the only one that actually had a name?
I think so. Well, dog was dog.
Everybody else was dog, duck, chicken, cat.
Chicken and cat. That's got to be a weird relationship.
Chicken and cat living together, and think about it.
And no, all right, keep it moving.
Replace those names with.
All right.
All right. So yeah, if I wasn't watching a Oscar-nominated movie, I'd be like, this was kind of cute.
I thought there was a sweetness to it.
This was kind of cute. There's a sweetness to it.
And a sadness.
It's definitely, I guess what they're trying to convey is like moving on from past relationships, maybe, although it's not really like, oh, we broke up or anything. It's sort of like,
it's
like ridiculous, sort of like ridiculous
drifting apart, I guess.
Kind of, but not by choice.
But not by choice.
That was another thing. It's the reason for the separation between dog and robot. Sorry if you consider that a spoiler. But I was just not on board with it. To me, if there was such an attachment, if there was such a connection between these two characters, a chain link fence isn't gonna stop me.
All right, fair enough. But that's you. That's not dog. Dog is his own entity.
And that's another reason why I disliked. The dog is a wet towel. Yeah, there was nothing I liked about dog.
I don't know.
I
mean,
like,
he wasn't the most dynamic character, but I think he seriously tried, and I think that's part of the story. He's someone who is super awkward.
I know, but
doesn't know how to navigate.
Somebody just needs to go
landscape.
up to dog and just smack him.
I don't think it's
like that. Go talk to his parents or brother or sister or something, or God forbid, did he even have a job? Like
no.
Did anybody?
No.
People had jobs, yeah.
Well, yeah, the scrap guy.
I mean, there were security guards and stuff, but dog just sort of lounged around his house all day.
Maybe mommy and daddy paid for rent.
Yeah,
I mean, in a city that's as full of people as New York, he still embodied the sense of loneliness.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not even like a city thing. It was just he was a lonely person. I guess he was socially awkward.
Right. And if you're looking at that story through that lens, it sort of makes sense that he doesn't have the power to convey.
All right, but maybe I've seen characters in stories like that, and like basically the character arc is
they grow
this
a
person. I am in love or attracted or made such a connection with this other person that it brought out this strength in me and made me go the extra mile. And for him, it didn't. It didn't make him go the extra mile. He gave up. He totally gave up. And then he just was like, oh, well, I could just do this. And then he did it.
Right. But don't you also think that maybe he doesn't go the extra mile because that wasn't the relationship? You have to also look at it from that vantage point.
No.
What do you mean no?
No, because if what happened didn't happen, he'd still have been with Robot. Nothing would have changed.
Possibly, but is Robot the match that lights Dog's fire, is what I'm saying. Yes. We don't really know that. Yeah. This is like the first, I mean, there's so many variables here. Was this the first relationship that Dog was in? We don't know that. Having not been in a relationship, does he even know how relationships work?
Why don't you know what? Ask the kids what they think of this.
All right. Olive G, I'm going to come to you now. What did you think of this film? Did you like it? Did you hate it?
I thought it was good.
Yeah? What'd you like about it? Did you like the story? Did you like the animation style? Did you
like any of the characters?
Did you like any of the characters?
I couldn't care less about the story or the characters.
Then why do you say you liked it then?
It was just something that I could watch. It's a nice thing I could just turn my brain off and watch.
All right. You found it entertaining?
Yeah. Was
there anything specifically about the story that you found most entertaining?
No.
Okay.
Do you think Dog could have done more? Do you think all of his actions in that movie were just like, okay, well, that's it. That's all that he could have done. He could have done no more.
Honestly, I feel like he could have done more because, like, didn't, like, in the story, like, 2 other guys were able to make it onto that beach.
Yeah.
So like, couldn't Dog have done it too? Like, not to mention, like, I don't think the security guard was, like, the security guard clearly wasn't doing his job correctly. If he didn't notice, like, people on that beach. Or a robot on that beach.
Yeah.
He is pretty bad at his job if he doesn't notice that.
Yeah.
So,
do you... The movie's called Robot Dreams. Do you think that makes sense, given that it's not really... I mean, the robot does have a couple of dreams in it, but do you think
that's not a really good title.
Do you think
for
the title
story.
makes sense given this for the story?
oh, no.
No, me neither.
It probably should have been called Dog and Robot.
Yeah, that probably would have been a better title.
A better title, yeah. Yeah, Robot Dreams doesn't make any sense. And the dreams that Robot has are very few and short within the piece itself.
Yeah, I think he has 3 dreams, and they're very
He always
short.
dreams about going back to Dog.
Yeah.
Although at the end, he daydreams about running after Dog and making that connection, but ultimately does not. Mm-hmm. Gee, what did you think of the film?
I didn't really like it.
No? Why didn't you like it? Like Dad, you didn't like Dog.
He was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, no. As soon as he just couldn't open a bag of chips, I was like, this guy's kind of annoying.
He was pathetic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Complete loser.
But don't you think that there are people that they just don't have... It's almost like they're not built for this world. They need someone to help them, to guide them. And I don't think that...
And
I don't
if
think
they
that
get
Dog
that,
had
then
that.
I think that they should pursue that, unlike Dog, who gave up after 2 attempts.
Fair enough. But I'm saying that this world is not for the meek. And I don't think that Dog is a strong character. I think that he's just someone that flits through life, easy breezy, living easy peasy kind of. He's not proactive in any way, shape, or form. He's not passionate. I don't get that impression from Dog. I think that he leads a very quiet life. And I think that a lot of it is tainted by loneliness. We don't know what his background is, what his familial situation is. Maybe he's alone in the world. So I think that in the sense of making connections, I think he's terrible at it. But I also feel that as lovely as his time was with Robot, some people come into your life for a certain time frame. It's not forever. And I think that this relationship was that. And I think that this story is an analyzation of that sense of temporariness. How some relationships are temporary. They're not meant to go the distance. And how we can find comfort and solace even through heartbreak in shared happier times. And I think that's very evident by the type of personality that Dog is. And also at the end where Robot has the opportunity to reach out to Dog to maybe reconnect, but then decides not to. And then at the end of the story, you see the new Robot with Dog kind of creating their own dance with Dog and I guess new life, right? Because now they have their own story moving forward. Whereas Robot now is with Rascal and how they now have their own new life. So I think, again, I don't feel like this is a kid's movie. I think kids can watch it.
Oh, it could easily be a kid's movie. It's just that there are themes that are not going to register with a child in the slightest bit.
Fair. Yes. Okay. In that sense, then yes, I think kids can watch it. But I think that there's many underlying stories being woven here. And I think that for a mature person, I think you would really get a lot out of this. I think that, I know there's personal bias. Absolutely, Mutant Mayhem's a better film, for sure. But having been presented with this story, I'm willing to accept the storytelling experience and really think about it and just delve into all the little nuances. And I think that they do it very cleverly, very subtly, very beautifully. I think that this is a very nice storytelling experience. It's not It doesn't have a crazy script. There's no talking in this. And again, I think that that's a bold choice by the filmmaker, who also, I believe, did Blancanieves, which I love desperately. And that also is a movie without any kind of dialogue in it, or verbal dialogue in it, I should say. And the same thing here. You're told a story through action. And I think that in order to hold an audience's attention for this amount of time, this movie clocks in at an hour and, what did I say? An hour and 42 minutes. That's not a short amount of time. And I think that the filmmaker, Pablo Berger, and the writers, which is also Pablo Berger and Sara Varon, which is funny because I think that was the dog's last name on the application, Varon. I think they do a really good job here of telling this story about relationships and how sometimes you drift apart, you drift away from each other, you form new lives, and it's okay. All of that is just great. It's fine. It's part of your tapestry.
I agree that that's the themes that they were going for. I just don't think the story was strong enough to carry those themes believably.
All right.
I understand that this is a kids movie, or you
Is
could
it a
watch
kids movie?
you
I
could watch
feel
it.
like
You could watch it as a kids movie.
You
or
can watch it as a
could
kids
watch
movie.
it. But as an adult watching a kids movie that has mature themes, not in any sexual way or violent way, but mature emotional themes, I don't think this world they created was capable of carrying that in a believable way. Like I said, he was like, with everybody could see him on the beach. That is like a weakness of storytelling to me, when it's just like, okay, this would never happen. At least have like the tide came in and covered him with sand or something like that, or
Well, he does get covered in snow and
not during the attempts that the dog makes to retrieve him.
Okay, fine.
And the fact that there's no dialogue or anything, it's like you're using that as a crutch to make this kind of a more believable scenario that he wouldn't be able to get over there, like 20 feet away.
Okay.
And that's, to me, that's just weakness when it's just like, oh, but it's a silent movie. They can't really communicate.
They can't, but they still do a good job of telling a story.
As far as the story goes, the scenario, okay, yeah, you've gotten the point of your scenario across. But there are certain things that the world has built into it. And obviously, there's going to be obstacles and whatnot. That's why I was saying about the whole, a lot of movies today, a lot of movies from when we grew up, they wouldn't happen if somebody had a cell phone.
Right.
That's why nowadays, whenever they make a movie and you're like, oh, well, if somebody just where's your cell phone? Just pick up your cell phone. Oh, the person picks up the cell phone and, oh, there's no reception. Or, oh, for some reason I was feeling all free and I threw my phone into the woods, or some bull crap like that. There is an excuse for why the world that you have set up doesn't make things easy for the character. Mm-hmm. And in this world that they set up for these dogs and cats and ducks and chickens and whatever living in, the obstacle was, there was no obstacle. You're just telling me there's an obstacle. It's like saying, why don't you pick your clothes up off the floor and put them in the hamper? And the person just being like, I just can't. It's impossible. How could I do that? You go over and you pick it up and you put it in the hamper.
But for people like that, that's a choice.
But he really wanted to get the robot back. His choice was to get it back.
He wanted to at first, but I think with time and distance, that want changes. And I think that that's part of I believe the relationship. I think that it no longer became important to him. Or not important.
No, it was important to him. I mean, you could clearly see, though, this is another reason why I dislike Dog as a character. He was ready to there were moments where he was just ready to forget about the robot. When he met Duck, you saw his refrigerator and the note, the very important note, June 1st, go get robot.
Covered up.
This is just all covered up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yet, once he got ghosted by that lady, I moved to Europe. Sorry.
Yeah.
Once that happened, suddenly the refrigerator had nothing on it but the note. It was just like, oh, I got to get my back up. And then once that failed, it's just like, all right, well, where's Radio Shack?
Robot Shack.
Robot Shack, whatever. So I disliked Dog. And like I said, I don't believe that the world just didn't make it hard enough for me to believe that Dog couldn't get this done. Even a introverted guy like him, because he wasn't super introverted. He was willing to go out and go kite flying or whatever else he did. He had a desire for that. He wanted to do that. Yeah, so to me that wasn't believable. And that's a mark against the movie and another reason why it shouldn't be in that spot. It shouldn't be in that spot.
But do you also think that Dog this wasn't where Dog's heart lay anymore? I think with time and distance that
he gave up before any of this time and distance thing happened. He did not really try. It was suddenly just like, all right, I guess I'll just wait the entire year. You don't say that. If you and I went to the beach and suddenly I couldn't move, but I'm still talking to you and whatnot, and then you come back and the gate's closed, I would hope that when the security guard says, hey, you can't be here, you would say, no, look, right over there, my husband's there. He just can't move. Could I go get him? That's it.
Well,
That's it.
I probably wouldn't have left your side. I would have stayed with you.
Yeah, even that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they would have seen us before they put the padlocks on.
Yeah.
And maybe helped me get you out of there.
Yeah.
But that's a different type of relationship.
Why? No, they were, to me, he loved that robot and that robot loved him. They're holding hands. They're noodling fingers together. Yeah. He thought of that not just as a helpful companion around the house. He loved Robot.
Okay. I thought that the person that I first fell in love with many, many, many years ago as a young person was the sun and the moon and the stars. And that's not how my story played out. And I think that here it's the same. Did
you just leave him on a beach somewhere during the height of your relationship?
Yes, I did. No. It didn't work out like that. But I'm just saying that the person that you are at one part of your life isn't who you eventually become. And as you get older, hopefully you mature and things.
No, you make 100% pure sense. I'm saying that the world that was set up and presented to us does not hold the weight of what you're saying.
All right.
They're putting that there, but if it's like built on a house of cards, it just falls apart. And that's my problem with it. At least in like other children's movies that have more emotional adult themes, there's like a structure there where you're like, okay, this conflict is held up by what? This world is holding up this conflict. They've established that. There's something going on that makes this conflict meaningful, whether it's the person's life, the way they act with each other. There's something going on. And this world, what they presented to us, was not enough of an obstacle to cause conflict in this emotional space, this more mature space. You're relying upon like a really simplified, childlike version of the world to hold up something that's just not meant for that.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. Can we agree on the statement that a relationship is between two entities?
Yeah.
What do you say to the statement that Robot didn't try hard enough to get back with Dog?
What do you mean?
Robot didn't try hard enough to get back with Dog. Why was it just Dog's responsibility to come back for Robot? If Robot was invested in this relationship as much as Dog, then what was Robot doing to bring them both back together?
Are you insane?
I'm just asking.
What is your problem?
I'm asking a question. Tell me.
We watched the same film.
Okay, so explain it to me.
And Robot was on the beach and he could not move.
Okay.
You think that he, like, all of a sudden, one day he's just going to wake up and be like, oh, I can move this whole time. I just was too lazy to go after the guy I love.
And then, on top of that, he was mutilated.
Yeah.
He was slowly... He got his leg chopped off.
And then he just, like, was thrown and he exploded. You think that he's going to get up after that, he's going to dust himself off and be like, okay, time to find dog.
But if this is a metaphor for relationships changing, right? Then why is the onus only on dog? I'm playing devil's advocate here.
All right,
Explain it to me.
Why is it easier for dog to go after robot than robot to go after dog? I think we just said why.
If this is metaphorical, then what does robot being stuck represent?
Maybe robot was in a holding pattern because robot didn't ultimately know what robot wanted.
Robot wanted to play the field.
No, just... Yeah. You've heard stories of people that are like, oh, I met my significant other and we got married when we were like 16 and we had this life and I never got to experience things, right? So if
they're not going into any of that in this movie.
Just
There's
saying.
never a point in either of robot or dog's existence.
I'm just saying
where they're holding hands and suddenly like dog just looks over and is at like a chicken walking by and is like, I wish I was with her. Or when robot walks past like a parking meter and is just like, man, I can go for some of that.
You're making it more lecherous. I'm just saying, if this is sort of like a metaphor for relationships that don't ultimately survive, and let's just take all of it off the table. Let's talk in generalities then. If two people, not a dog and a robot, but if two people suddenly fall out of a relationship, like whose responsibility is it to keep? How do you make love stay?
That would make sense if they fell out of this relationship because of something happening.
But sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes people just grow apart.
But
it's not some kind of...
But they didn't grow apart. That's the problem with the movie. They
weren't together long enough for them to fall out of a relationship.
It was just sort of like, okay, we're in a relationship. You walked into the bathroom and the door got locked. And I was just like, all right.
I twisted the knob 2 times.
Yeah, I jiggled the knob. What the hell do you expect me to do?
So, but wait.
And then never talk to each other again.
Yeah. But wait.
Even though you're in the bathroom.
Dog purchased robot.
Yeah.
So does robot have their own license here? Is robot supposed to be beholden to dog always? Or is robot allowed to be its own entity and say, this doesn't serve me anymore? This doesn't... Do you know what I'm saying?
You're going into these crazy hypotheticals that have nothing to do with the movie we just watched.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate here.
Well, your devil's advocating is not good because we're talking about this movie, this story, the reasons why it doesn't work, and now suddenly we're like talking about, well, robot was purchased. What about what robot wants? We know what robot wants. Robot wants dog.
Does robot want? Because at
robot
the end,
dreams of nothing but dog.
But then robot always dreams of going back to dog, but there's always something that prevents them from reuniting, whether it's dog has moved on or whatever. And at the end, robot makes a decision. Robot could have gone after dog, but chooses not to.
Yeah,
because
he looks down and it looks like robot is that dog has clearly moved on to robot too.
Right, but I'm saying robot also made a decision.
Yeah, robot is capable of making decisions. Right. I feel like a caveman. His name is Robot. It's not like it's like Robot Frankenstein. Rah.
And we don't say he because we don't know what gender.
Robot could be a girl for all we know.
Right.
Or nothing. In fact, he is nothing. Or let's just they. Robot is what it. Robot is robot.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I'm done philosophizing about this movie. It was okay. It wasn't good.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't. It did not.
I think you're letting the stain of it being nominated instead of Mutant Mayhem.
Yeah, it was not better than Mutant Mayhem in any way, shape, or form. Story-wise, no. Animation-wise, no. Voice talent-wise, clearly not. Soundtrack, no way it gets stomped in that category. So, yeah. Entertainment, no. No way is entertainment.
I thought it was fun.
Was it as fun as Mutant Mayhem?
No.
No.
It was better than Elemental.
For all the greedy, superficial people, it didn't make as much money as Mutant Mayhem either. So, yeah. Every category, it just gets rocked. And I don't know why it's there. I really don't know. Maybe it was just, we gotta I don't know, we gotta have some sort of international flair to the nominations.
Well, aren't the filmmakers supposed to nominate their films? So maybe Seth Rogen just didn't give a shit about having
I
it nominated.
have no idea. Even if he didn't, somebody else should have.
Fair enough, but I guess nobody cared enough to have it nominated. I mean, I think that's how.
I mean, there's a nobility in that, but
I think that's how Walton Goggins is like an Academy Award winner, because somebody was like, "Oh, you should nominate your short film," and he did, and he won.
Okay.
So
Good for Walt.
I love that guy.
No, I like Walton Goggins too.
Yeah. Anyway,
either way, even without my little bit of bias there,
little.
I don't even think you could talk about bias though, because when you watched Top Gun, you found out it made $1 billion, and then you were like, I don't like this film.
I don't think I didn't like it because of that.
Yes, you did.
I was
Your
flummoxed.
opinion. No, your
I was
opinion
flummoxed that it made that much
Your
money.
opinion was completely soured after you looked up the box office numbers or
I
whatever.
didn't like the movie on watching it.
I know you
there
didn't.
was nothing really bad about that
But
movie.
It
I
wasn't
remember
good.
you looking at that in the middle of the film and being like, "Oh God."
Yeah, I was surprised that that film made as much money as it did. I mean, even with the nostalgia factor, but it wasn't a bad movie.
It wasn't good.
I would watch that over this.
Oh God, no! I would watch this ad nauseum before I'd have watched Maverick again.
No.
Would you guys rather watch this or Crush?
This
Numbers.
numbers.
All right.
Olive G, 1 to 10.
6.5.
6.5. G,
Like a 5, I guess.
5.
I'd give it a 5 too.
I give it a 7. I think I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I thought it was I think the animation is simple. It's not anything crazy. It's not as good as Mutant Mayhem. But I think the story that it's trying to tell is compelling. And I think that it gets points for, including September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Not the original. Obviously, it's some other version, some Muzak version of it. But still, that song always gets a nod from me. I think the themes and the stories that are being told are relatable and done very nicely. You can watch this with children. I don't think there's anything objectionable in it. I think some of those deeper underlying themes will get lost on them, but it won't matter because I think that this is, from A to B, a simple enough story that a child can just look at and be entertained by and not have to be scared by some crazy thing that happens in the story. It goes from A to B. It's about being in relationships and then those relationships not really progressing and the choices that are made once those relationships don't progress anymore. I think that's an interesting thing to talk about. I don't think that that's something that's really addressed in animated films, and traditionally we think of animated films as fair for children, but here I think it plays both, and I think that a young audience and an older audience can absolutely get something from this storytelling experience. Mm-hmm. And with that, we are going to wrap it up. Again, this is playing in theaters, but soon to be streaming, I think I read somewhere, not sure, but absolutely, I think you should check it out. I think other people at this table will say, wait for it to hit the streamers. And with that, we will bid you all a
Good night.
Good night.
good night.